Oftentimes other animals do associate themselves with giraffes because they know that if the giraffe gets spooked, that there's another reason for them to be afraid as well. Now just to the right of our giraffe, we actually have a great stalk their prey, and then as soon as they are in close proximity to their prey, also known as cheetah food. You will notice that they have situated themselves pretty close to the cheetah enclosure. This is not a mistake. These little animals like to keep a close eye on their enemies so that they know exactly when they need to run away. So oftentimes when you see some Thompson's gazelles, a cheetah is probably close by. And then they scoop them up with their famous cooler pouches. It's often thought that these pouches are used to store food. As I've already mentioned, the Zoological Society of San Diego is very involved in the conservation of endangered species. One project we are currently involved in is called the Sahelo-Saharan Project. This project aims to reintroduce desert species back into their natural habitat in Africa, and we did have a successful reintroduction into Africa back in 2007. Now if you look on the right hand side of the vehicle, kind of towards the back end of the enclosure, we do have a peek of some of these desert species. The large white animals with the long curly horns are some of our addax, and they are actually the most desert adapted species. That bright white coat helps reflect the sunlight and it helps keep their body temperature cool. And also these animals are able to survive their entire life without drinking water. It's a bit odd to you, red blending into green, but I promise it really does work. Most mammals have what is like a red-green color blindness, so their coloration will look about the same shade as their surrounding environment. Now the one kind of to the right of the herd, sitting down right now, you will notice is much darker than the others, Earth. Two of which are here at the San Diego Zoo's Wild Animal Park. Now the reason why they are so critically endangered is again because they have been hunted for quite a long time for those horns on their head. They were thought to have medicinal purposes, but they're actually made of keratin, the same material that makes up our hair and fingernails. We currently have their DNA stored in our frozen zoo at our Beckman Center for Conservation and Research of Endangered Species, and it is our hope that with this DNA and with future technology that we can study these animals and see what we need to do in order to help out. Now just to the right of this large tree, we have a great view of some of our Cape buffalo. Cape buffalo are one of the bravest animals we have here at the park. They actually use intimidation as a way to ward off predators. If they feel threatened, they will stand and glare at their predator, give them the stink eye, and let them know who's boss. If for some reason the predator still does not get the hint, they will actually work together as a family and mob their attacker. That is right, there are very few animals that are brave enough to stand up to their own predator, and you do not want to mess with a herd of angry Cape buffalo. That's for sure. Now the reason why Cape buffalo have that dark coloration is so they can stand out. It is a little bit difficult to intimidate someone when they cannot see you, and so that's why they try to stand out instead of blending in. While they try to stand out, the giraffe does try to blend in, and if you look just past this cement structure, we do have a peek of a couple of our reticulated giraffes, and as we continue on just past the second tree, we will have a chance to see another one. Now, giraffes spend the majority of thick saliva coats the thorns, and it allows it to go down their throat easily like a gel capsule. From the tallest land mammal to the tallest bird, we have a great view of some of our ostriches just past this fallen log. Now, ostriches also camouflage into their environment well.
Where is it?
Now, how many of you have heard the story that ostriches occupy that area? The way their threat mask works is it kind of elongates their horns and hides their eyes, so it does make them look much more intimidating than they actually are. Another animal with a mask is the blesbok, and they're the dark animals with the white faces just across the valley. Instead of using their mask for intimidation, they actually use it to communicate with predators. If they spot a predator, they will bob their heads up and down, and that lets the predator know that it has been seen. Oftentimes, many predators will be a little bit lazy and won't want to have to go after an animal that has already seen it. So this really is a great way that these animals, in order to avoid harm, their horns look. So this really is an unfortunate situation for him because he really isn't that attractive to the females. And so I think he's having a little bit of an identity crisis, so I'm not sure exactly what he's doing here, but it is kind of a sad situation. Now the greater kudu is a very skittish animal normally. They are cocking their ears in the direction of harm, and that's supposed to let the rest of the herd know that that is where they should be looking. As I like to say, if you can't lose them, confuse them. And that is exactly the technique that the grubby zebra used. Another way that zebras use each other in order to survive is through the lookout system. Zebras have a very inefficient digestive system, and they have to eat about 60% of the day in order to survive. The unfortunate thing about this is that they do have their head buried in their food most of the day, and you really can't see a predator when you are staring at a plate of food. Now, the way that they deal with this is through the lookout system, meaning that one or two of their herd members will not be eating while the rest of the herd is, so that they can keep that eye out. Gemspot compete for food, springbok compete for positions in the herd, and the small tan animals with the horizontal line on their body are some of our South African springbok. Because they are so small, they are very vulnerable to predators, and the way that they cope with this is by playing what I like to call the numbers game, meaning that they will surround themselves with as many springbok as. On the right hand side of the vehicle, we have a chance to see some of our Barbary red deer. They are actually the only deer indigenous to Africa. We have seen and talked about quite a few different antelope species, but there is only one species of deer. Now, one of the main differences between deer and antelope is the fact that deer have antlers, whereas antelope have horns. Now, the main difference between antelopes and horns is actually what they are made out of. Antlers are actually made out of bone, and so it's like growing an extra appendage every single year, whereas you only get one set of horns your entire life, and it's made out of a protein. You might notice that this male has some velvety texture to it. It grows in with that velvety texture so that it can deliver nutrients to the bone so that they can grow large and strong. After quite a bit of conservation effort in Africa, the numbers were raised to about 1,000 in the late 1960s. At that point, 22 of them were brought here, where we were the 13,000. So this is one of the great conservation stories we are right now. We have in times you will see giraffes just kind of resting and eating, making sure that they do have enough energy to grow that 6 feet in 1 year. So it really is exciting to see them up and about, starting to walk. So really exciting news for us here at the park. Again, we have 3 in this enclosure. We actually have one that's still up with mom, a little bit younger than these 3, and we have 2 more on the way, and so this is some great breeding success we are having with this specific herd of giraffes.